Hello! In this video, we are going to prove the following corollary of the triangle inequality. Suppose a and b are real numbers. Then the absolute value of a minus the absolute value of b is less than or equal to the absolute value of a minus b. Now, there are two main facts that we're going to rely on. The first is the following. For every two real numbers a and b, the absolute value of a minus the absolute value of b is less than or equal to absolute value of a minus b. The second fact is the following. For every two real numbers a and c, if c is greater than or equal to 0, then absolute value of a is less than or equal to c, if and only if negative c is less than or equal to a is less than or equal to c. And in the book that I'm referencing, this second fact is referred to as theorem 2.2.2c. And this first fact actually doesn't have a name in the book, but you can prove this directly from the triangle inequality. And in fact, in the previous video, we proved this. So now, let's prove this corollary. And to start out the proof, let's give ourselves two arbitrary real numbers, a and b. Our whole goal is to prove this inequality. Now, let's start out by applying this fact, right? We know that the absolute value of a minus the absolute value of b is less than or equal to the absolute value of a minus b, right? This is true because we can take capital A to be a, capital B to be b. Similarly, we could take capital A to be b and capital B to be a, and we would get that the absolute value of b minus the absolute value of a is less than or equal to absolute value of b minus a. Now, we know that the absolute value of b minus the absolute value of a is the same thing as the negative of absolute value of a minus absolute value of b. And since a minus b and b minus a are negatives of each other, we know that their absolute values are equal, right? So just like that. Now, in this second inequality, we have shown that the negative of absolute value of a minus absolute value of b is less than or equal to absolute value of a minus b. Well, if we multiply -1 on both sides, we get that the absolute value of a minus the absolute value of b is greater than or equal to the negative of absolute value of a minus b. And so, focusing on this inequality and this inequality, we see that the negative of absolute value of a minus b is less than or equal to absolute value of a minus absolute value of b, which is less than or equal to absolute value of a minus b. And now, from here, we can apply theorem 2.2.2c. The reason why is because we can take capital A to be absolute value of a minus absolute value of b, and we can take capital C to be absolute value of a minus b. Because in this case, we see that negative capital C less than or equal to capital A less than or equal to capital C. And we know that capital C is greater than or equal to 0, right? Because the absolute value of anything is greater than or equal to 0. So we must have that this statement is true. So we know for a fact that the absolute value of capital A is less than or equal to capital C. That is, the absolute value of a minus absolute value of b is less than or equal to absolute value of a minus b. And this is exactly what we wanted to prove. So this completes the proof. And so yeah, that's pretty much it for this video.